Welcome back to Kringle's Christmas Stories, brought to you by Kringle's Christmas Shop, home of Comet's Choice premium reindeer food. Tonight, we're diving into a tale that sends shivers down the spines of even the bravest elves. The legend of the Yule Cat. So grab a cup of cocoa, get cozy by the fire, and prepare to be transported to a wintry Icelandic village where myth and reality intertwine. The Legend of the Yule Cat, Chapter 1. The Claw Marks. Snow hushed the village of Vik, soft and deep, swallowing every sound except the faint creak of wood under the weight of frost. Arner knelt beside the barn, his mittened hand hovering over the jagged gouges slashed into the planks. The three parallel marks, each deeper than his finger, gleamed faintly in the pale winter light. "Did you find more?" whispered Hilda, her small figure silhouetted against the vast white landscape. Her wool scarf had slipped to reveal flushed cheeks, and her eyes darted toward the horizon, where the sun bled orange into the sky. Arner didn't answer. Instead, he traced the lines with his glove, imagining the strength it would take to carve wood like that. Arner, Hilda pressed. "Too big for a dog," he muttered. His voice felt foreign, low, and cautious, like it might summon something from the stillness. "Or a fox," Hilda added, stepping closer. Her boots crunched in the snow. A soft patter of running feet made them both turn. Sigurd skidded to a stop beside them, clutching a lantern that sputtered weakly against the encroaching dusk. His chest heaved, and his coat flapped open, as if he'd run straight from home. "I heard it!" He gasped, the words tumbling over each other. "Last night, outside my window, growling." Arner stiffened. "Did you see it?" "No," Sigurd panted, shaking his head. "But I found this." He opened his hand, and there, caught in the folds of his glove, was a tuft of coarse black fur. Hilda's breath hitched. "The Yule Cat," she whispered. "Stop it!" Arner stood abruptly, shoving his hands into his coat pockets. "That's just a story." Hilda's voice dropped, trembling. "Grandma says it's real. She says it eats people who don't get new clothes by Christmas Eve." Arner glanced at the claw marks again, unease prickling the back of his neck. "Stories don't leave marks like this," he muttered. Sigurd held out the fur. "If it's not the Yule Cat, what is it?" Chapter 2. The Missing Lambs. The Johnson farm was quiet when they arrived, but the tension in the air hung thick as smoke. The three children lingered by the sheep pen, their breath clouding in the icy air. The gate dangled from one hinge, its wood gouged with more deep slashes. Inside the pen, Mrs. Johnson paced her boots, crunching over untouched snow. "3 lambs?" she murmured, her pale hands wringing an apron already damp with tears. "3 gone in one night. And the snow." She motioned toward the pen's unbroken surface. No tracks. Sigurd knelt, inspecting the wood. His fingers traced the familiar lines, the edges splintered and raw. "It's the same," he said softly, glancing at Arner. Arner nodded, his jaw tight. "No animal did this." Mrs. Johnson's voice wavered. "We bolted the gate last night. Whatever it was, it tore it clean open." The children exchanged uneasy looks. Arner broke the silence. "We need to find it, whatever it is." Sigurd's head snapped up. "You're not serious?" "I am, if we don't." Arner glanced back at the pen, where tufts of wool caught on the slashed wood fluttered in the breeze. "This won't stop at lambs." Hilda shifted on her feet, hugging her scarf tighter. "What if it's the Yule Cat? We'll need new clothes." "Don't start with that again." Arner cut her off, though his voice lacked conviction. "We'll follow the marks, find out what's happening, then we'll figure it out." Sigurd sighed, but nodded. "I'll bring a lantern and rope." Hilda hesitated before muttering. "I'll bring snacks." Chapter 3. Into the woods. The trail led them out of the village, past frozen streams and skeletal birch trees. The claw marks wove an erratic path, sometimes on fences, sometimes on rocks, always leading toward the dark expanse of the forest. The light dimmed as they entered the trees, the canopy blotting out what little remained of the sun. Snow muffled their steps, but the silence felt oppressive, as if the forest itself held its breath. "Arner," Hilda whispered, tugging his sleeve. "It's getting dark." "Not yet," he said, though the shadows pressing in around them made his own pulse quicken. "The marks are still fresh." Sigurd swung the lantern higher, its golden light flickering over frost-encrusted bark. "There's something ahead," he said, his voice low. Through the trees, a faint glow shimmered, not golden like the lantern, but cold and pale like moonlight caught in ice. The children approached slowly, the air around them growing strangely warm. The trees gave way to a vast opening in the hillside, a cave, its mouth rimmed with dagger-like icicles. Inside the glow brightened illuminating walls embedded with what looked like shimmering crystals. "Have you ever seen this place before?" Sigurd asked, his voice barely audible. "No," Arner replied, stepping closer. "It looks alive." Hilda murmured her breath, fogging the air. Arner crouched at the entrance, brushing aside snow to reveal deep gouges scored into the frozen ground. The marks were fresh. "It's here," he said grimly. Chapter 4. The Cave. The air inside the cave carried a metallic tang warm enough to melt the frost on their boots. The walls shimmered faintly light, pulsing in slow, rhythmic waves as if the cave itself were breathing. "This is wrong," Sigurd muttered, gripping the lantern tighter. "We shouldn't be here." Hilda crouched, picking up a shred of black fur caught on a jagged rock. She held it out without a word. Arna's eyes darted around the cavern. Piles of debris bones, wool scraps of wood lay scattered like offerings. A deep rumble rolled through the cave, low and resonant, shaking the walls. The children froze. The rumble came again, louder this time, accompanied by a rhythmic thudding. Sigurd turned his face pale. "Something's coming." Two pinpoints of yellow light appeared at the far end of the cave, burning brighter as they approached. A growl, deep and guttural, filled the air. Arnar stumbled back, grabbing Hilda's arm. From the shadows emerged a monstrous form, a cat, but impossibly large, its black fur rippling like liquid shadow. Its eyes blazed with unnatural fire, and his claws scraped against the stone, leaving fresh scars. Hilda let out a choked whimper, pressing herself against Arnar. The Yule Cat sniffed the air, its nostrils flaring. Its growl deepened, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the children's bones. "Run," Arnar whispered. The cat sprang. Chapter 5. The Escape. The children bolted their boots, pounding against the stone floor. The cave walls blurred as they ran, the cat's growls reverberating behind them. "Faster!" Arnar yelled, yanking Sigurd upright as he tripped over a loose rock. The Yule Cat's claws raked the ground inches from their heels, sending shards of stone skittering. Its hot breath washed over them as they careened toward the mouth of the cave. "There!" Hilda cried, spotting a narrow crevice in the wall. They dove in, squeezing through the tight space just as the cat lunged. Its claws scraped against the entrance, sparks flying. The beast roared, its yellow eyes glaring into the darkness. The children stumbled into a small chamber, gasping for air. A soft blue glow filled the space, emanating from a pedestal in the center. On the pedestal lay a stone tablet etched with ancient symbols. As Arnar approached, the air grew heavy, and the tablet began to hum. "Touch it," Sigurd whispered, his voice trembling. Arnar hesitated, then reached out. The glow intensified, and a deep voice filled the chamber. "Who dares disturb the lair of the Yule Cat?" Arnar snatched his hand back, his pulse pounding. The voice was deep and resonant, vibrating through the stone beneath their feet. We didn't mean to," Hilda stammered, clinging to her brother. "Speak!" The voice commanded, a soft rumble beneath its authority. "Why have you come to this sacred place?" Arnar swallowed hard. "We followed the marks. The cat, it's attacking the village. We need to stop it." Silence. Then the voice returned, colder this time. "You misunderstand. The Yule Cat does not hunt without cause. It is a guardian, a judge of those who forget the old ways. Tell me, children, do you know the meaning of Yule?" Arnar frowned. "It's Christmas." "No," the voice boomed. "It is gratitude, preparation, diligence. The villagers have grown careless, greedy. They no longer honor the Yule with gifts of respect and readiness. The Yule Cat comes to remind them." Sigurd stepped forward, his lantern trembling. "But it's attacking everyone. Animals, too. How do we stop it?" "Restore what was lost," the voice said. "Give tribute, show gratitude. Only then will the Yule Cat be appeased." Arnar glanced at the others. "Tribute? What kind of tribute?" The glow around the tablet dimmed, and the voice softened. "The kind that comes from the heart." The children exchanged uneasy glances, but there was no time for hesitation. Chapter 6. Convincing the village. The village square was buzzing with tension when the children returned, panting and disheveled. The Johnsons and other villagers huddled near a crackling fire, muttering in hushed tones about missing livestock and strange tracks. Arnar burst into the circle, clutching the tuft of black fur. "Listen!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the chatter. The villagers turned, their faces lined with worry and doubt. "It's the Yule Cat," Arnar said. "We saw it. It's real." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some skeptical, others frightened. Sigurd held up the fur. "It's huge, bigger than anything we've ever seen, and it's angry." "You're scaring the children," snapped one elder, shaking his head. "It's true," Hilda cried. "We spoke to something in its cave. It said we have to give tribute or it'll keep coming." The murmurs swelled into argument, but Mrs. Johnson raised her hand, silencing them. "What kind of tribute?" she asked. "Gifts," Arnar said. "Not just things, but gratitude. We have to show we still care about Yule." One by one, the villagers' expressions shifted. First doubt, then realization. Chapter 7. The Offerings. By dawn, the village square was transformed. Tables were laden with handmade gifts, knitted scarves, fresh bread, carved wooden toys. The scent of roasted lamb mingled with the crisp morning air as the villagers gathered, each holding their own small offering. The children led the procession, carrying a basket of their own gifts. Sigurd's lantern, Hilda's scarf, and Arnar's father's hunting knife polished to a gleam. They made their way to the edge of the forest where the cave entrance loomed like a frozen maw. "Do you think it'll work?" Hilda whispered. "It has to." Arnar said, his grip tightening on the basket. The offerings were laid at the entrance, the gifts shimmering faintly in the morning light. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a deep growl echoed from the cave, and the ground beneath their feet trembled. The Yule Cat emerged, its black fur rippling like shadow, its yellow eyes fixed on the offerings. The villagers held their breath as the beast approached its massive paws, silent against the snow. It sniffed the gifts, its tail twitching. Finally, the cat lowered its head and let out a low purr, a sound that vibrated through the air like distant thunder. Then, without a sound, it turned and disappeared back into the cave. The villagers exhaled as one relief washing over them. Arnor glanced at the others, a small smile tugging at his lips. Maybe the old stories were right. They always are. Hilda said softly, watching the cave until the last flicker of shadow vanished. And that brings us to the end of our reading of The Legend of the Yule Cat. Now let's welcome our expert who can help us unpack this chilling tale and explore its deeper meaning. Welcome. I'm so glad you could join us tonight for this deep dive. I don't know about you, but I'm still feeling a bit spooked by that encounter with the Yule Cat. What are your initial thoughts on the story?
Well, first off, let me say it's a pleasure to be here. And yes, that Yule Cat definitely makes an impression, doesn't it? It's a fascinating creature, really. Not just a monster, but a symbol of something much more complex.
Absolutely. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on its role in the story.
Well, it's interesting how it's presented, isn't it? It's not just a mindless beast. It's almost a force of nature, a symbol of something much older and deeper.
Definitely. It seems to represent the consequences of forgetting traditions. And like you said, that sense of gratitude and preparation that's supposed to be at the heart of Yule. It's almost like a guardian of the true spirit of the season.
Exactly. It punishes those who become careless and greedy, straying from the old ways. It reminds us that Yule, or Christmas as we know it, is about more than just receiving gifts. It's about respecting tradition, giving back, and remembering what truly matters.
And that idea of giving tribute, of offering something from the heart, it's a powerful message, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It suggests that true appeasement comes from genuine acts of generosity and reflection, not just material possessions. The story cleverly uses the Yule Cat to make us question our own holiday traditions and motivations.
It also makes you wonder about the origins of these traditions, doesn't it? I mean, where did the idea of the Yule Cat come from?
Well, the Yule Cat is deeply rooted in Icelandic folklore. It's thought to have originated as a way to encourage people to finish processing their wool before winter truly set in. Those who worked hard were rewarded with new clothes, while those who were lazy risked facing the wrath of the Yule Cat.
Wow, so it was a way to motivate people and ensure everyone was prepared for the harsh winter.
Yes, and it also speaks to the importance of community and working together. Notice how the entire village comes together to appease the Yule Cat. It emphasizes the need for collective responsibility and shared traditions. It's a reminder that even in the face of fear, we are stronger when we unite.
That sense of community definitely shines through, especially when they all decide to offer those heartfelt gifts.
Absolutely. And it's interesting how the story ends with Arnor wondering if the old stories were right. It leaves us with a sense of mystery and possibility, suggesting that perhaps there's more to these myths and legends than meets the eye.
It's a reminder to keep an open mind and maybe even look for those deeper meanings in our own traditions.
Precisely. Now, what really struck me was the symbolism of the cave.
Ooh, yes. Tell me more about that.
Well, caves often represent the unknown, the hidden depths of our subconscious or the mysteries of the natural world. In this case, the cave serves as the Yule Cat's lair, a place of power and ancient energy. It's almost as if it symbolizes the heart of winter itself, cold, dark, but also strangely alluring.
And that blue glow in the hidden chamber with the stone tablet. Almost otherworldly, wasn't it?
Very much so. It suggests a connection to something magical or divine. The tablet seems to act as a conduit, allowing communication with a higher power, perhaps the spirit of Yule itself. It's a reminder that there may be forces at work beyond our understanding, guiding and shaping our world.
The story certainly gives us a lot to think about, both in terms of folklore and the deeper meaning of our own traditions. Well, before we get too lost in contemplation, let's pause for a quick message and then come back to discuss the story's impact on Icelandic culture. Welcome back to Kringle's Christmas Stories, brought to you by Kringle's Christmas Shop, home of Comet's Choice premium reindeer food. We were just discussing the symbolism of the cave in the legend of the Yule Cat. It's almost like a character itself, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's not just a setting. It's a representation of the wild, untamed forces of nature, and perhaps even the hidden depths of our own fears and anxieties.
And the way it contrasts with the warmth and light of the village. It really highlights the importance of community and tradition in facing those darker aspects of life.
Exactly. It's like the story is telling us that we need those traditions, that sense of belonging and shared history, to help us navigate the unknown and overcome our fears.
That makes me think about how this story reflects Icelandic culture as a whole. What can you tell us about the significance of folklore and storytelling in Iceland?
Well, Iceland has a rich tradition of storytelling passed down through generations. These tales often feature supernatural creatures and magical events intertwined with everyday life. They serve not only to entertain, but also to teach moral lessons, explain natural phenomena, and preserve cultural identity.
So the Yule Cat isn't just a scary monster. It's a way to connect with a deeper cultural heritage.
Precisely. And the story's emphasis on hard work preparation and respecting tradition, those are values deeply ingrained in Icelandic society, shaped by the challenges of living in such a harsh environment.
It's fascinating how a simple children's story can reveal so much about a culture's values and beliefs.
It really is. And the legend of the Yule Cat specifically reminds us that even seemingly light-hearted traditions often have deeper roots and meanings.
And then maybe, just maybe, there's a little truth hidden within those old tales.
Who knows? Perhaps there's a Yule Cat lurking out there somewhere, waiting to see if we've truly embraced the spirit of the season.
Well, I think our listeners are definitely ready for the holidays after this deep dive. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just this. As you gather with loved ones this holiday season, take a moment to appreciate the traditions you share and the stories that have shaped your lives. And maybe, just maybe, leave a little extra treat out for the Yule Cat, just in case.
Thanks for tuning in to Kringle's Christmas Stories, brought to you by www.kringleschristmas.com. By the way, do you have your Comet's Choice premium reindeer food? Get yours today at cometschoice.com. We hope you enjoyed tonight's story of the Yule Cat. From all of us at Kringle's Christmas Shop, have a warm and wonderful holiday season. Welcome back to Kringle's Christmas Stories, brought to you by Kringle's Christmas Shop, home of Comet's Choice premium reindeer food.
Oh, it's good to be back.
We were just talking about the symbolism of the cave in the Yule Cat. It's almost like a character itself, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's not just a setting. It's this representation of wild, untamed forces of nature and perhaps even the hidden depths of, our own fears and anxieties.
Yeah, and the way it contrasts with the warmth and light of the village, it really highlights the importance of community and tradition in facing those darker aspects of life.
Exactly. It's like the story is telling us we need those traditions, that sense of belonging and shared history to help us navigate the unknown and overcome our fears.
That makes me think about how this story reflects Icelandic culture as a whole. What can you tell us about the significance of folklore and storytelling in Iceland?
Well, Iceland has this rich tradition of storytelling passed down through generations. These tales often feature supernatural creatures and magical events, and it's all intertwined with everyday life. They serve not only to entertain, but also to teach moral lessons, explain natural phenomena, and preserve cultural identity.
So the Yule Cat isn't just a scary monster. It's a way to connect with a deeper cultural heritage.
Precisely. And the story's emphasis on hard work preparation and respecting tradition, those are values that are deeply ingrained in Icelandic society, shaped by the challenges of living in such a harsh environment.
It's fascinating how a simple children's story can reveal so much about a culture's values and beliefs.
It really is. And the legend of the Yule Cat specifically reminds us that even seemingly lighthearted traditions often have deeper roots and meanings.
And that maybe, just maybe, there's a little truth hidden within those old tales.
Who knows, perhaps there's a Yule Cat lurking out there somewhere, waiting to see if we've truly embraced the spirit of the season.
Well, I think our listeners are definitely ready for the holidays after this deep dive. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just this, as you gather with loved ones this holiday season, take a moment to appreciate the traditions you share and the stories that have shaped your lives, and maybe leave a little extra treat out for the Yule Cat, just in case.
I love that. Thanks for tuning in to Kringle's Christmas Stories, brought to you by www.kringleschristmas.com. By the way, do you have your Comet's Choice premium reindeer food? Get yours today at cometschoice.com. We hope you enjoyed tonight's story of the Yule Cat from all of us at Kringle's Christmas Shop. Have a warm and wonderful holiday season.